Hello, my name is Ty Mitchell, and we'd like to spend a few minutes with you and talk about some of the things that we do at the clinics. This week we'll be talking about the alleyway. Your barrel races start in the alleyway, and so many times we get in trouble before we ever enter the arena. So we're going to spend a few minutes and talk about your angle to the first barrel. Not all arenas have alleyways. You may be starting inside the arena. How do I line up for that? Or if it's a side alley, where do I need to go for that? If you have a horse that's hot and nervous, what's the best way to keep them settled down? What can I do during the week to help prepare them for the weekend? Or if I have a horse that's laid back and I'm needing to wake him up, get him ready for the race. Every horse is a little bit different, and getting a game plan and a strategy, how you approach that alleyway, is very important. Remember, that's the start of your run, and being prepared in the alleyway will help you be more consistent. All right, right before we make a run, we hear our name called out, 2 or 3 before we run, and automatically we think our horses know our names. A lot of times that's caused by our tension, our nervousness. We hear our name called out and we grab our reins and we get tense, may have spurs on, and we just kick them, and this horse feels that. So horses don't necessarily know your name, but they do feel your nerves. So being relaxed, whether you're in a holding pen or right before you run, you need to try to stay relaxed where this horse can feel that. As soon as they call our name out, if we grab them and get tense, this horse is going to feed off that. And sometimes that is the difference between getting in that alleyway good and having a nice, quiet, focused horse versus one that's excited and is washed out before they ever get into the arena. So make sure your saddle's tight, you're on your horse, you've got time, allow yourself time, but be relaxed when you get on there. If you're a nervous person, the best thing what works for me is picturing that run that I want to make in my mind, and I try to channel my nervous energy in a positive direction. Sometimes we get to picking on these horses back there in the alleyway just because we're nervous, and that horse is getting excited, and they're losing focus before they ever get in the arena. All right, now I want to show you how to enter just a traditional alleyway, an alley that's in the center of the arena, and then we'll be talking about your side alley and different approaches. One of the first things you want to do as you're entering that alleyway is, number one, have your hands slid down and ready on your reins. That's one less thing that you have to do in the arena, and it's better to have your hands where they need to be. That way you have control of your horse. The second thing is, I want to find my spot going to the first barrel. And as a rule of thumb, 10 to 12 foot would be your pocket area. Now in this alleyway, I'm in line with the third barrel. I definitely want to line up with the third barrel. I don't want to run to the third barrel, but I want to line up or center up with my third barrel. From that point, I will be taking my angle to my pocket area, which will be 10 to 12 foot. All right, now if I'm coming from a side alleyway, not all arenas are set up for a center alleyway, so if I'm coming from a side alleyway, this is what I would do. As I'm going towards the center of my arena, I want to be looking over my shoulder, find that third barrel, and looking for my spot. Once I center up or line up with my third barrel, I know I'm at the center of the arena. My next angle will be at my pocket area beside the first barrel, which is 10 to 12 foot. So nothing's going to change. If I'm coming from a center alley or a side alley, I'm going to end up in the same place, or try to. Now at our clinics, a lot of times we will have a closed gate, and it's very surprising how different people start. A lot of people will come in, make a circle, and there's nothing wrong with that, but make sure if you're loping a circle starting off that the outside of your circle is in line with where an alleyway would be, or your angle to the first barrel. You don't want to make a circle and just take a straight line to the first barrel, so make sure you find that spot. And the way to do that is, when you're starting from the side, get that horse's nose looking to the inside, centering up with my third barrel. Now I'm going to my spot, or my pocket area, and that gives me a good angle and a good approach. Now in some arenas there may be a gate on this side or the opposite side of the arena. Nothing's going to change. If I enter the arena, I'm going to come across and do the same thing. I want to make sure I come all the way across the arena to allow my horse room to be able to make this turn. Finding that spot, I'm lined up with the third barrel. Nothing's going to change. Your first barrel is not going to be moving. Your pocket area is going to be the same, but the way you approach, your angle may be a little different. But the thing to remember here is lining up with the third barrel. If you don't have an alleyway to go through, that way your bearings are just right in the arena. You're centered up in the arena, and then you're going to run to your spot. There's nothing worse than you'll see a lot of people that psych themselves out. There's not an alleyway, and I'm not used to that, is what they're telling themselves. And when they get in there, it's really not that big of a deal, but making sure that your horse is lined up is going to be the most important thing. All right, now we've talked about your angle, coming down the alleyway, the proper way to enter the alleyway. Let's talk about those problems that a lot of horses might have. You know, one of the biggest problems that we see at our clinics is horses that are not only refusing, but they're turning around in the alleyway. If you have a horse, if you're coming into the alleyway and this horse wants to turn to the left or to the right, one of the worst things you can do is let them complete that turn. What I mean by is if your horse is coming in here and he's turning to the left, hang on to that right rein. Go the opposite way. If you can prevent that horse from ducking away or going back, turning around, you want to try to keep them facing the barrel pattern. Once you get them facing the barrel pattern, then you're going to encourage them with your legs or even a whip. But there's nothing, if you've got to get out of that horse's mind, there's not an exit here. He doesn't need to turn around. And a lot of horses will start or can get bad in the alleyway simply by starting by turning around. So if you can prevent them from turning around, that will do a big deal for your horse, and he knows that there's not an exit or a way out. But so many times we'll see people let this horse circle, turn away, they turn, and then they'll face back, and the horse does it again, and they keep circling. If they're turning to the left, you turn them to the right, or vice versa. If they're going to the right, you want to make them go the opposite way. And the whole time you're doing this, you want to keep your eyes focused on where you want to go, not where this horse is wanting to go. So many times we see that. A horse is wanting to turn to the left, and we're needing to go straight, and the rider turns his body. You want to keep your eyes focused on the target, even if your horse is not going that way. Your hands follow your eyes, so it's important to keep your eyes on the target and stay relaxed in the saddle. And that's easier said than done. When you've got 1,200 pounds of a fire-breathing dragon coming down the alleyway, we tend to get a little tense ourselves. And it starts with our hands. When we come in that alleyway, if we know we have a nervous horse, you don't want to do a lot of grabbing on the reins. Try to relax. Have your hands slid down, but stay relaxed. Be ready if you need to make a move. But keeping your eyes on that target, staying relaxed, taking some deep breaths and get some oxygen flowing, that relaxes your body, which is going to help relax this horse and keep him moving in a forward motion. Now, one thing that we like to do in the alleyway, instead of coming up here and then breaking from a standstill to a run, we like to walk, trot, lope, then run. Go through your progressions. That will help keep a horse much quieter, especially as you season them, as they get a little bit older. All horses know what the alleyway is, or will figure it out, and what you've done in the past will help them be quieter in the future. All right, one thing that'll help during the week, if you do have a horse that's a little bit nervous in the alleyway or tends to get a little hot, you know, sometimes it's hard to do slow work on those type horses. One exercise that I like to do is loping lots of circles down here in the alleyway or by the alleyway, and I call this the hot zone. You know, a lot of horses, it's hard to lope. They're anticipating fixing to go through the barrels, but if we can get these horses tired where they're getting hot right here by loping circles, and I don't mean 3 or 4, but you may lope 15, 20, and then walk through your pattern. Kind of reverse it. Make this be the work and the barrel pattern be where they relax. And some of that reverse psychology will go a long ways, especially if you have a horse that's a little bit hot down here. There's nothing worse than your horse getting excited, and if you don't have their attention back here, you're not going to have a good first barrel. So it's important to get these horses' mind, especially during the week. This is one thing that you can do to help that. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this horse is pretty relaxed in the alleyway. If your horse is not loping a smooth circle down here, you want to continue loping circles. You may have to do 15 or 20 circles. I may stop and even go the other way, kind of take some of that anticipation out of them by going the other way down here. And what you're doing by doing that, letting this horse get tired in this hot zone, is going to help get them relaxed. Once they make a smooth circle without pulling on me as much, if they're real chargy, I'm not going to go to that first barrel. I'm going to get this horse tired back here, and then when he's willing and ready, then I'll let him slow down and either walk or trot through the pattern. When I turn my third barrel, I'll go back to the fence, come back down the rail, and I'll do it again. I may do this 5 or 6 times, and through repetition, you'll find that your horse, hey, I'm going to have to do a lot of work down here. I'm going to settle down, and they're going to be more relaxed going to that first barrel. This is also real good if you have a horse that is maybe running past that first barrel or running down the fence. Getting that control before you get to that barrel is so important. We look forward to seeing y'all next week. We're going to try to do different videos and kind of show some of the things that we do at our clinic. And remember, look us up on www.barrelracers.com.